What's up guys, this is Nishi from MST.TV here. So guys, I have a little bit of a problem. I have way too many Yu-Gi-Oh cards in my house. Like literally, I just bought yet another collection. This is like a quarter of it maybe. But yeah, like my shelf, my counter, my desk, they physically cannot hold any more Yu-Gi-Oh cards on them. Fortunately, you guys can all help me with that. So since we just hit 50,000 subscribers, I've decided that one of the things I want to do is find a way to give back to you guys as viewers, since none of this would be possible without you all. So what I've decided to do is that I am going to randomly give away cards to you guys with every single video that I post. All that you have to do is thumbs up the video, be subscribed to MST.TV, and comment on each video. For this one specifically, I would love if you guys would comment and let me know what kind of stuff you guys would like to see given away. Do you guys want some meta relevant cards? Do you guys want like older collectible cards? Do you guys want some foreign stuff, or maybe a bit of everything? I have so many like cards that are just lying around collecting dust. They're probably better off in you guys' hands. So really just let me know down below and you'll be entered. For this video, I will be giving away an ultra rare copy of Borrelsword Dragon. So this is something that I'm looking to do continuously with all of you moving forward. Hopefully as the channel grows, I'll be able to give away more and more valuable cards. So make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned. Maybe if it gets really good, we'll look into giving them away on Tombox's videos as well. I will be announcing the winner in an upcoming market watch for the Borrelsword Dragon later this week, where I'll be giving away another card that's maybe a little bit cooler than Borrelsword based on what you guys put in the comments below. But I mean, hey, like a free Borrelsword doesn't hurt for now, right? Anyways, so in today's episode, we are going to talk about some of the strangest cards to ever see meta play, either in the TCG, the OCG, or both. Sometimes cards have like very specific effects and are viable only under very specific circumstances. However, sometimes we see a certain card or a deck come out introduced to the game that supports an archetype in just the right way. So we see like these really odd, obscure cards all of a sudden come into the meta. I love cards like this because I find it really funny to see like these obscure cards that no one really knows about, like in the deck of an eventual YCS champion. For example, let's look at a card like Pianissimo, which I guess is a card that's supposed to be played in something like Melodious. However, this card was actually used in Zodiac format as a way to protect your monsters from being popped by Dryden. I really enjoy seeing odd cards like this pop up here and there. Every time like I find a copy of that card in someone's binder or bulk, it reminds me of that card, and I think of it as like a trivial little piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history. So yeah, what we're gonna do today is take a look at some of these more obscure cards that have seen some sort of play in the meta. Let's get started. Okay, so first up, let's look back at 2015 when Shining Victories first came out. So there were a few cool cards in this set, like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, Cosmo Dark Lady, and Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. However, a lot of the hype from this set revolved around the release of Blue Eyes support, like Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, Sage with Eyes of Blue, and the White Stone of Ancients. So for the first time in who knows how long, Blue Eyes looked like they were going to be an actual good meta deck, and it did actually go on to win Worlds in 2016, which is pretty cool. One card that actually saw usage kind of randomly in this format was the Fabled Catsith. So this card is a level 1 light tuner monster, and when it's discarded, you got to destroy a face-up card on the field. So Fabled were always kind of like interesting, but I guess never really that strong. Like we saw Fabled Raven in Dark Worlds, and then recently we saw Fabled Solkius in Burning Abyss. However, Fabled themselves were not really like a meta deck or anything, and even Fabled decks I don't think played this card specifically. However, this card was really situationally just perfect for Blue Eyes. It's a level 1 light tuner, so it could be searched out by the effect of Sage with Eyes of Blue if you already had a stone in your hand. Also, this card could be discarded with the Melody of Awakening Dragon, which Blue Eyes used to search the vanilla Blue Eyes and Blue Eyes alternative White Dragon, and you could get value from discarding Catsith to pop your opponent's card. Specifically, you could get rid of a card like Vanity's Emptiness, which was very problematic for Blue Eyes to get through. Now, this card actually saw a lot more play in the OCG, as Blue Eyes actually saw a lot more success over there than it did over here. I remember trying to play Blue Eyes myself, and it felt like really inconsistent and bricky unless you drew like the perfect combination of cards. But yeah, Fabled Catsith was a card that was pretty hyped up for that deck. We actually saw DT copies go for anywhere from like $5 to $10 at one point, so that was kind of cool. Next, we actually have two cards, but they were both kind of used for like the same purpose, so we're grouping them together here. we have Jax Knight and Dark Witch. So these cards were played during Monarch format, specifically in Extra Deck Monarchs. These cards were both level 5 light vanilla monsters, and I believe that that's the only real requirement when people decided to play these cards specifically. So that deck played Brilliant Fusion in order to make Gem Knight Seraphonite, which gave you an extra normal summon. However, in doing so, you had to dump a light monster. So what they did was they made the Gem Knight that they send Gem Knight Lazuli, and then they ran one of these vanilla monsters. Since the two monsters would be sent to the graveyard at the same time, you could then use Lazuli to add back Dark Witch or Jax Knight to your hand. Now, with Return of the Monarch, which is a continuous spell that lets you search for a Monarch when you tribute summon a monster, you could tribute summon the vanilla monster that you just added back and search for a Monarch. And remember that since you summon Seraphonite, you do get an extra tribute summon to use as well, which meant that you could summon the Monarch right away. Now, each of these cards had their own like individual benefit. So Dark Witch is a fairy, and I think it's the more common one that's relevant if your opponent played Rivalry of Warlords, since you could still summon it with Seraphonite on board and you could tribute it for Ether, which is also a fairy. So there was synergy there. However, Jax Knight did have 100 attack points more, right? Dark Witch has 1800, Jax Knight has 1900. I can't remember exactly which monster that was important for. I believe it was Cliffort, where all the monsters had like a base of 1800 attack points. Each of these cards had like their own merit. It's just kind of really weird because like sometimes I'll go through and I'll see like a bunch of like random normal monsters, right? And I'll stop at each of these cards and I'll think like, should I set these aside because they were really hard to find in that like past format. But yeah, seeing these odd vanilla monsters actually get to see some meta play is something that I found really interesting. Okay, so next we have Recover. So this really odd card was printed as a super rare in the Primal Origin Deluxe Edition, which was kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh's attempt at trainer boxes. This card was officially out though in Duelist Alliance. It is a level 1 Psychic Tuner monster. Actually, now that I think about it, I think like also Cat Sith was a level 1 tuner monster, so maybe that's going to be a recurring trend. Anyways, this card is also an Earth monster, right? So this card saw play during what some people call like the Duelist Alliance format, where we saw Nekroz, Shaddoll, Burning Abyss, Teller Knights, and Clifforts as like the 5 competitive meta decks of the format. Honestly, that format was like a lot of fun. I played Nekroz through that format myself, and it was pretty cool. So Nekroz was like a little bit more dominant there because of the power of Nekroz of Trishula, and then also the blanket negation that Unicorn provided. However, the deck was very dependent on spells resolving, so Clifforts decided to begin siding 3 copies of Emergency Teleport and 1 copy of Recover. This was done to make Naturia Beast, which would single-handedly like win the game for Clifforts against Nekroz. The deck did adapt, and like eventually people were playing like Zephyr Saber and Nekroz. However, Naturia Beast was still a really big pain to deal with. But yeah, this card was like pretty cute. It has an okay effect, I guess. Like, you can summon it from the graveyard if you have 5 fewer cards in your extra deck than your opponent by paying 2,000 life points. However, I don't think that the card actually saw any play in any other strategies. It was literally like just abused by Clifforts because it's a level 1 Earth tuner and it's a psychic in order to make Naturia Beast. But yeah, at first glance, this card is like kind of weird, not very useful, but I guess every card in the game kind of like has some potential use. So Cameraclops is one of those cards that just kind of looks like a card that's meant to troll you. If I went up to you and I said, hey, someone's going to be topping a YCS and they're going to be playing Cameraclops in their deck, you guys would probably call me nuts, but this is an actual card that we did see play from in some top Nekroz decks. So when Nekroz first came out, the deck was like ridiculously broken, right? I mean, I'm talking about back when Brionac was like a $200 plus card, 1 in every 5 boxes, and we saw Jin Releaser of Rituals played. Jinlock was a very problematic time for Yu-Gi-Oh, largely because it was so easy for the deck to set up like turn 1, and it could do so like every single game if given the chance. However, then we have Cameraclops. So this card was technically an out to the Jin lock, right? If it battles with a Classalis with the Jin buff, you could just destroy the monster and free yourself, allowing you to play the game. Obviously, right, like this wasn't a perfect solution. If your opponent had Nekroz of Gungnir, they could use it to protect their monster earlier on. Or if they had Nekroz of Valkyrist, they could stop you from attacking altogether. If they didn't though, this card was your out. Also, we have to remember that Reinforcements of the Army was played in this deck in order to search for Classalis or Shrit. Cameraclops was also a warrior that could be searched. Now, there are other alternatives that were played at the time, right? We have cards like Bullblader and DD Warrior Lady. All of these cards were like used by different people, but they all more or less like saved the same purpose functionally. I think that technically Warrior Lady was the best because it banished instead of destroying. However, Cameraclops makes the list here because it's just so ridiculous, and the way the card looks is so trolly. I think it's great. Up next, we have Reptilian Vaskey. So this card is a 2600 attack point monster, level 8 dark attribute. So this card you can special summon by tributing 2 monsters with 0 attack points from either player's field. Also, once it is on the field, you get to pop an opponent's monster for free. So this card saw play in people's side decks in the OCG during Dragon Ruler format. The very simple idea here is that it got over Dracosac, which, believe it or not, was really annoying to get over at the time. What you could do is tribute your opponent's 2 tokens to summon this card, and then use Vaskey's effect to pop the Dracosac itself. From there, you got like rid of a really big problem all in one card, and you can kind of do your own things now. So this is great and everything, but the card was used a bit in the OCG and then like hyped up in the TCG. It never really saw any play here. This is for a pretty simple reason, right? Like the card literally only had one extremely specific application. It was only good in like this one circumstance for getting over this one card, and who wanted to waste like 20% of your side deck for 3 copies of this card? You were just so much better off playing other cards that could be used against like more than one deck, or were just like better against Dragon Rulers in general. But yeah, I still find it really funny that this card was ever hyped up or used by anyone in a meta like competitive deck at all, just because of how specific a situation is required in order for the card to be considered useful like in the slightest. Also, it's a reptilian card, which is probably one of like the worst archetypes ever created. Don't hate on me, guys. Reptilian players, both of you guys know that that's true. But yeah, this is definitely one of the weirder cards on the list. And finally, guys, we have Genex Ally Duradark. So this is a level 4 dark machine type monster that actually saw play in the side decks of Dragon Rulers. This card has an effect that states that once per turn, you can destroy a face-up monster your opponent controls with the same attribute as this card. I don't know why they worded it this way. Maybe they thought you were gonna like flip DNA transplant and then pop a whole bunch of stuff, but whatever. So yeah, the idea with this card was that you could destroy Evil Swarm Ophion, who stopped you from special summoning Dragon Rulers altogether. Like, Dragon Rulers didn't really need their normal summon, they could still function and swarm the field without it. At the same time, if you tried to use spells or traps to get rid of Ophion, they had Infestation Pandemic, which would make Ophion immune, and the deck played back row as well, so if you tried like running something over it, you would probably get hit with like a Mirror Force or something, and you probably couldn't normal summon like a 25, 50 or bigger monster. So Duradark was a card that people were playing in the side deck as like a decent side deck card to counter Ophion. However, this card was also from Starstrike Blast as a secret rare and was never reprinted, so obviously at the time it was one of the hardest cards in the game to find. Naturally, this card jumped up to like, I want to say like between $30 and $40 in terms of price, and this is for a card that also had like one very specific application at this point in time. But yeah, we actually see like the odd card from Starstrike Blast become like the tiniest bit relevant all the time. Cards like Attack Gainer or Naturia Cherries or Heatwave. But yeah, Genex Ally Duradark, because of how obscure the card is, how limited its very specific application was, and the fact that it became a $30 meta-relevant card randomly, like out of Starstrike Blast, Duradark also makes the list as one of the strangest cards to ever see meta play. Alright guys, that is it for this video from me. Hopefully you found it interesting. Personally, I really love Yu-Gi-Oh! History. I think it's really cool to see how these old cards can come back out of nowhere. It's one of the reasons I like how we have a ban list rather than rotation, and it's one of the reasons that I try to keep like copies of any of these older cards I have that might be the slightest bit relevant in the future, just in case. But yeah guys, if you want the chance to win that free Borrelsword Dragon, please make sure that you've given this video a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed to MST.TV, and make sure you've left a comment down below. Let me know what cards you want to see given away. Also, let me know what other random cards may have seen play in the meta before that I didn't cover here. Maybe older cards from before I started playing, and we'll be able to make a part 2 video on this topic based just on you guys' comments alone. I will be announcing the winner of the giveaway in a Market Watch video later this week, and the next giveaway will be for something even cooler, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think that's everything from me, guys. So until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST. STRANGEST.TV.